everyone, it's Ravenhawk6910 recording once again. It's January 2015. Welcome to the new year, everybody. And time for the first layout blog video of 2015. So without even having to really show you too much, the O-scale layout is operational in one sense. I finally got my hands on a CW80 Lionel, and the inner loop is powered. The outer loop, however, is not. The illusion at the beginning of the video was just me moving the train with my hands. But it was enough to fool all of y'all. Anyways, my plan for the outer loop is I will probably look for another CW80 and just hook it up to the outer loop so that way I can run them both independently of each other. But as you can see, everything is running just fine. I'll go ahead and run the Junior here again a little bit for you. And it runs real nice, as you can see. Not bad for a train that was made in the 30s. So let me show you guys some of the new pieces of O-scale rolling stock that have come in, because there have been a lot of new pieces come in this past month. So let's get right to it. First off, starting off the new pieces, this is a Norfolk Southern SD60 that I got at Trainmasters. This is a MTH Rail King scale SD60. Now, for those of you that don't know the difference, MTH makes two versions of Rail King. There are regular Rail King, which is 027 size. However, they also make a few scale items as well, and those use older Premier Line molds to make scale items with. So this is a pretty nice SD60 detail-wise. The only downside is that it is not powered. However, I am looking into a powered diesel to run with this thing, probably a Union Pacific or a Canadian Pacific, or something else like that. Maybe even one of the Norfolk Southern Heritage units if I can find it. But let's move the train a little bit and I'll show you some of the other new pieces. First thing to come in new this month is this Lionel Norfolk Southern Heritage tank car. This is from the old run in 2009, like my caboose that I showed you in my previous blog video. And what's neat about this one is that it actually has rotating bearing caps. When I roll the car by, you can watch it. The only thing is, I can't really pin down which road this car is supposed to represent. There's no real indication. At first blush, I thought it might be a nickel plate inspired car, but the only thing I can really pick up is the pinstriping and maybe the blue and the white. That's the only thing I can find that would make me believe it's a nickel plate car. However, there's nothing on here that properly labels it as a nickel plate car. But either way, it's still a very nice car. As you can see, detail is pretty nice, and again, those rotating caps are really cool. The next set of cars to come in are three covered hoppers. This first one, which is a Santa Fe one, is made by MTH. And the next two, this Missouri, Kansas, Texas, and this Norfolk and Western, are older Lionel ones from the 90s. These were bought from my friend Gene in California. So I really appreciate him selling me these cars. And the fourth hopper that I got is this one here. This is an Atlas O cylindrical hopper. But this one is really, really neat. It says, "The future is here," and in smaller letters on the side it says, "The inaugural car, Atlas O LLC, established February 27th, 1997. To make a long story short, this car was made for Atlas dealers and given to them in 1998 to celebrate Atlas starting to make O-scale cars. Now, the first time I ever saw a car like this, I was actually watching one of Eric Siegel's videos. He found one of these cars as well. Which, by the way, if you haven't seen his channel, go check it out at Eric's Trains. It's really a nice O-scale channel. Anyways, but I found one of these cars for myself on eBay, and actually was able to amazingly get the winning bid on it. And it just arrived today as I'm shooting this, so very, very nice car, and I'm really glad I picked it up. The next car behind that is another Atlas O car, but this one is a box car. And this one is painted for the Georgia-Florida Railroad. And the Georgia-Florida Railroad later fell under control of the Southern, and then it was spun off to a short line in 1999, which then renamed the route the Georgia-Florida RailNet. So interesting that that railroad's still operating today, and this car was purchased from Trainmasters, and it's slightly weathered too, which is pretty nice. Next car is an MTH Premier Line one. This is a 60-foot Amtrak Express Track box car, plug door insulated box car. Nothing real special about it, but I really liked the paint scheme on it, so I picked it up, and it's really, really a nice car. The Whopper Hopper you already saw in my last vlog video, so I'm not going to go over it again. This car is an MTH Premier Line Railgun gondola with 8 steel coil loads in it. And this is the MTH Railroaders Club car from 2012. And I joined this club this year when I started doing O-scale, and they still had this car available through purchase through their flyer, which is called the Crossing Gate. So I gave MTH a call and ordered one of these cars at a discounted price, and it arrived just in time for Christmas. It actually arrived on Christmas Eve, which is really cool. So, very, very nice car. And the last car to come in is another one of the MTH Lionel, or not Lionel, I'm sorry, Norfolk Southern Heritage box cars. And this one is painted to represent the Erie Railroad, as you can see. Now, eventually I would like to get all of the cars that represent the heritage units. As you can see, I've already got the Erie, and I've got the Illinois Terminal as well. So, hopefully at some point I'll be able to get all 20 of those cars. But as you can see, as cramped for space as I am right now, I'm not really going to have much space for all 20 cars, so I would have to swap them out in a consist. But, still very nice, very cool pieces of rolling stock that I've picked up, and I hope you guys like them as well. And as you can see, I've got so many pieces of scale rolling stock now, the train actually will couple up to its tail end, which is kind of funny. But yeah, really nice pieces of rolling stock, and I'm really glad I picked them all up. So that's really everything that I wanted to show you guys here in the O-scale layout. Let's head outside to the HO layout, and I'll show you the projects that I'm restarting out there. Yes, I do say restarting because I have been taking a break from HO to spend time here in the house with my grandpa while he was living here before he passed away. So I really haven't had a lot of time for the HO layout. But let us renew our promise to that HO layout, and let's go back outside to it and check it out. Well guys, here we are. We're back at the Georgia Northern. And as you can see, the trains are running. And I still love this T1. Before I get started, in terms of this T1, I'll probably end up renumbering this thing at some point to 5550, which is the T1 that a group is trying to build from scratch. And it'll be numbered right after the last T1 that was built for the Pensy. But anyways, after that quick side note, let's move on to some of the stuff out here that's going to be hopefully finished before maybe summer, hopefully. But anyways, let's take a look. The engine that's probably going to be finished first is obviously the one that's closest to being done, and that's NS6160. Now, the 6160 has been sitting on the workbench for a while along with a bunch of other projects. However, unlike most of the stuff, it's almost ready for service. In fact, this entire side of the engine here is 100% complete, except for a small section of frame striping right here. But on the other side of the engine, as you can see, let me get it back on the rails here. You can see here that the smaller decals like the safety striping and the labels, have not been completely installed yet. And I've been neglecting to do this for a long time. So once I get some money, I will start adding more decals to this thing. And also I do need to add this handrail on this side right here next to the nose. But once all that's done, this engine will be ready for service. The next locomotive that will be in line for work is this GP59E that I started a while back. Now, everything is pretty much the same where I left it. The only thing I have made a change to is I added a positive train control antenna box to the roof. That's not exactly prototype for the GP59Es that I'm working on here, but it still looks good, and eventually all of them will be getting PTC if they're not already built into the engines already. But this one will be the next one in line to get work done on it. This one's going to be a lot more difficult because, as you can see, I still have to add hood doors, handrails, and a bunch of other parts. In fact, this engine doesn't even have wheels yet. So I would like to get this thing done by, again, summer, but we'll just have to see what time and money will allow. The next engine that will be resuming work is my NS Admiral Cab SD40-2 number 3310. Now, unlike my 3310 disaster of last year, this one will hopefully go along more smoothly. The Shapeways cab that is going to go on this one actually has a cutout on it, so that way you can use the battery boxes from either the original model or from a Canon parts kit, which is slightly more accurate. However, I'm not too concerned about that, so I will probably end up just slapping the cab onto the frame and just use it as is. One engine that I'm halting work on for the time being is my NS C40-8.5W number 8500. The real C40-8.5s may actually not happen anymore, because when NS brought these engines up to Altoona for final emissions testing, they found that the cab was too heavy and the framework on the battery boxes was actually starting to collapse under the weight of the new cab. So they are currently sitting in storage and may end up actually being scrapped. So we'll just have to see what happens. But if more work does continue on these engines, then I will resume more work on the 8500. Two pieces of rolling stock that will have some work done on them to get them back into service are these two passenger cars. The car on the right is my Southern Hospitality dome car that is actually about 90% complete. I just need decals and couplers for it. The other car here is the Pacific Sands. This car is a Walthers car that I started working on back in the summer of last year, and I never got around to finishing it. So I'm hopefully going to finish it up this year, and maybe by this summer get it into service on the layout with my excursion train, but we'll just have to see what happens. Something else I'd like to get operational this year is my Northwest Short Line Southern Railway 4-unit hopper car. You may recall this car from my Memphis model train haul video that I shot after I came back from Memphis, Tennessee. This car is all brass, and it's a 4-unit car that there was only one built as a prototype by the Southern, and there were none other built afterwards, and it was scrapped eventually. But this is a very nice car, and like I said, I'd like to get it into service. It needs couplers and it needs wheels to be operational. It needs to have the rest of the paint finished, because on the prototype there's a big black stripe that goes down all 4 of these cars, and Southern is spelled out on all of it. So that one I'll have to get somebody to do for me, because I'm not really confident in trying to paint brass by myself, at least for something like this. The last piece of equipment that's going to need finishing this year is my British Columbia Railway C44-9WL. Again, this is an engine that I started back last summer and just haven't been able to get around to finishing it. Now, this one's going to be a little bit more difficult because, as you can see, I still need to install the front and rear pilots to get the correct Canadian anti-climbers. I need to install the handrails on both sides. Now the front and the rear are going to require custom handrails. The MU hoses and train line hoses and the plow has not been attached. And I believe that should be it in terms of detail part work. The main coat of paint has already been applied, and I just need to add the striping here across the nose. I need to drill the holes for the headlights, and this thing will have the 4 ditch lights just like on the prototypes. And I also need to install the smokestack and the horn as well. And the final thing that I will need to do to get this engine operational is I'm going to remove this entire frame and replace it with an Athearn ready to run frame that is colored silver, which is prototypical for the BC rail units. So once all of that work is completed, this engine will be operational, and I'll be able to use it with the rest of my CN units. So that gets us up to mid-January of 2015. So some of you guys are probably wondering why I took such a break from HO scale for a while, and I will go into that right now. Firstly, the main reason I did was because of my grandpa. But second, there were a lot of things that happened, and I made a lot of mistakes last year. There was a lot of modeling success, but there was also a lot of modeling failures. I also didn't make a lot of very smart investments at the time with modeling, and ended up getting ripped off by a couple of people, one of which is actually a subscriber on my YouTube channel. So, I know you're watching this probably, and I know what you did. You're just lucky that I was able to resolve the issue by myself. The second individual, who will not be named, was the person who was going to sell me a RailPower SD90 Mac so I could represent one of the NS units. Well, $45 down the toilet, and I still do not have that engine. So, between all of that frustration and then piling on so many projects all at once, it led me to just not want to do it anymore. And when I come out here, I want to have fun. I don't want it to be stressful. And I've got enough stress in my life right now with losing family members and my job and everything else. So when I come out here to play choo-choo, I want to play choo-choo and have fun. So I gave myself a little bit of a break, and that's really when I started doing the O-scale stuff. Is it more expensive? Yeah. But it's also more toy-like and more fun. So there was really no customizing that you have to do. You can certainly do it with O-scale if you want, but it's nothing compared to this. Some of the customization I've done out here is way more compared to what I've ever tried to do with the O-scale stuff. So with that being said, both layouts satisfy both of my modeling needs. This layout being able to satisfy the rivet counter and prototype modeler in me, and the O-scale layout being able to satisfy the kid in me. So that's why I really started doing the O-scale layout and put HO aside for the time being. Now, that is not to say that the HO layout is going away. It's not. I have no plans on getting rid of this stuff because I still have a lot more stuff to do, and I still have a lot more fun to have out here. Now, fortunately for me, the problem of me possibly having to move last year did not happen. However, the one thing I was not able to do was start scenery. And I know a lot of people have mentioned, when are you going to start doing scenery? When are you going to start trying to make the layout look more realistic? Well, it's going to take a while, but I'm going to start to try this year. I'm going to look into, first off, painting the bridge section that connects the two sections of the layout. I'm going to lay down a little bit more green paint here on the table because there have been some areas where it has started to come up. Then I'll start looking into ballast for the track, and that'll be the first thing. And once that's finished, then I can move on to other things like
grass and hills and trees and what have you. I am not going to procrastinate any longer with it, as I do know that the layout does need improvements. Something else that I am going to get done this year is some deferred maintenance on some of my engines. You may not know this, but a couple of my engines got damaged when I went to Memphis, thanks to being thrown around in the luggage on the megabus. My George Bush SD70 had a handrail stanchion broken off. That's minor. My NS 9294-9 had damage to the gearbox on it, and it is not operational at all at the moment. I have to get that fixed before I can run it again, but all in due time. The George Bush unit will probably be back in service soon, and like I said, all of these projects are going to take time, and I will finish them in an order based on how simple and complex they are, if that makes sense. But everything else aside, I'm looking forward to what 2015 is going to bring, and here we are in January, and almost a month has already gone by. So the time is definitely going by fast, as usual. Just like the old song goes, don't blink. I am definitely looking forward to what's going to happen. And so, I am probably going to just go ahead and leave you guys here, because there's not really too much else to discuss, and I'm starting to ramble, and I'm starting to get sleepy. And I've got to go into work at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, this hobby isn't going to pay for itself, is it? So until next time, everyone, this is Ravenhawk 6910, signing off.